So volatile oil or essential oil, fractional distillation and fractional crystallization are preferable methods wherein you want to get larger amount of volatile oil or essential oil. Now, what is fractional distillation? For distillation, the component present, it should be volatile in nature. Fractional distillation is mostly used for separation of essential oil components. Most of the volatile components are steam volatile, and if you follow the process of fractional distillation skillfully, various low boiling component and high boiling component can be separated from the total volatile oil. So if I want to separate the specific low boiling component from high boiling component, I can go for fractional distillation. This process, that is fractional distillation, is largely used for the separation of hydrocarbons from oxygenated volatile oil components. The product are referred to as terpene-less volatile oil. Terpene-less means the head and the tail fractions are being removed, and it will contain the enriched constituent, that is the volatile components present in the separated fraction. The components like citral, citronenal, and eucalyptol are even now separated by fractional distillation. Also, it is used for separation of hydrocyanic acid from the plant material. So these are some of the specific methods which are available for separating specific components in plant material containing essential oil or volatile oil. Now, this is the schematic representation of isolation and purification of essential oil components. So you take any plant material, either it can be the crude drug in the fresh form or in the dry form. You can apply different methods of extraction of volatile oil, that is steam distillation, water and steam distillation, or hydrodistillation, and you can separate and extract the specific phytoconstituent. The parameters which are used for evaluation of essential oil or volatile oil is the yield of the oil, the density of the oil, the specific rotation, and you can also obtain the spectra of the volatile oil. Now, the separation of volatile oil, it can be carried out by three methods. One is fractional distillation, second one is column chromatography, and third one is crystallization. Now, column chromatography is one of the most widely used methods for carrying out the separation of the volatile oil. Now, any volatile oil, it contains two fractions, either polar fraction and non-polar fraction. Usually, the plant material containing volatile oil, they do contain high percentage of non-polar fraction. So, if they contain non-polar fraction, usually these are monoterpenes and sesquiterpenes. But if they do contain high polar fraction, then depending upon the functional groups which are present, that is either acidic, phenolic, aldehydic and ketone, esters and ethers and alcohol, then different methods of isolation and purification are required to be followed. For example, say if it contains acidic functional group, you have to carry out extraction with alkali, that is sodium bicarbonate solution. Similarly, phenolic group with alkali sodium carbonate solution, aldehydes and ketones, rechromatography. If it contains esters or ethers, then usually saponification and fractionation of alcohols from ethers. And if it contains alcohol as a functional group, column chromatography is usually followed. Now, this is the general scheme or a representation of any plant material containing essential oil or volatile oil. Now, coming to the specific drugs or the phytoconstituents given in the syllabus, we go to the first drug, that is menthol. Now, what is menthol? Menthol is a monoterpene alcohol. It is an alcohol containing volatile oil obtained from diverse types of mint oil. There are several different sources of mint oil. It includes black peppermint, that is Mentha piperita var vulgaris, white peppermint, Mentha piperita var officinalis, Mentha arvensis, and lastly, Mentha canadensis var piperensis belonging to family Labiatae. So if you see the chemical structure of menthol, it is a monoterpene containing alcohol as a functional group. So it is an alcohol containing volatile oil. It is a monoterpene oil. Now, What are the chemical constituents or the properties of menthol? Menthol, it is coming from peppermint oil. It contains around 1 to 3% of volatile oil. The first two species which I stated earlier, that is black peppermint and white peppermint, it contains around not less than 45% of menthol. And the other two species which I mentioned in the previous slide, that is Mentha arvensis and Mentha canadensis var piperensis, the other two species, it also contains good percentage of menthol, around 70 to 90%. Now, along with menthol, as one of the active principle, along with menthol, the oil also contains neomenthol, isomenthol, menthone, menthofuran, methyl acetate, and cineol. Menthol is obtained from natural sources. It can be either levorotary or it can be the racemic mixture dextrolevomenthol. Now, menthol, it can be synthetically prepared by hydrogenation of thymol in the laboratory. Properties of menthol. Menthol, it occurs as white colored, bold or fine crystalline or granular substance with peppermint-like taste. For levomenthol, specific rotation is between 45 to 51. For dextrolevomenthol, it is 2 to 2 degrees. Now, these are the specific rotation or the evaluation parameters for ascertaining the purity and quality of menthol. Solubility characteristics of menthol, it is slightly soluble in water, but menthol is freely soluble in alcohol, chloroform, ether, petroleum ether, and glacial acetic acid. Since it is volatile in nature, menthol, it should be preserved in airtight containers, preferably at a controlled room temperature. So any drug containing volatile oil, it will vaporize even at room temperature. That is the reason they are advised to be stored in tightly closed containers. Isolation of menthol. Usually mentha oil or menthol, it is obtained by the process of either hydrodistillation or steam distillation by using fresh aerial parts of the plant material just before flowering. So before the plant material achieves the stage of flowering, you have to collect the fresh aerial parts of the plant material and subject it to either steam distillation or hydrodistillation. Now, for isolation of menthol from peppermint oil, the oil is subjected to cooling. On cooling, the crystals of menthol will crystallize out from oil, that is the volatile oil, mentha oil, which can be further separated by centrifugation. So the method of preparation or extraction is hydrodistillation or steam distillation. And for isolation, cooling procedure is required to be carried out in order to get crystals of menthol, which can be further separated by centrifugation. There is another variety of menthol, which is obtained from the plant material Mentha arvensis. So that particular oil, it is called as the core mint oil. The core mint oil, it is obtained from the steam distillation of the flowering herb Mentha arvensis, which contains around 70 to 80% of free menthol. Core mint oil is also cooled and the crystals of menthol produced are separated by centrifugation. So on cooling, you will get the crystals of menthol and separation is like centrifugation. Since the crystalline product does contain traces of core mint oil, the menthol has slightly herbaceous minty note. Pure menthol, it can be obtained by recrystallization by using solvents with low boiling points. So you can carry out the process of purification by applying the procedure of recrystallization by using specific solvents having low boiling points. And that is how the menthol so obtained can be purified by recrystallization. Dementholized core mint oil, from which menthol is removed by crystallization, they do still contain 40 to 45% of menthol. It can be reused for producing menthol. Dementholized core mint oil, that means it does not contain menthol. Although the menthol is being completely removed by crystallization, it may still contain some amount of menthol. It can be reused for extracting or for separating specific menthol from that particular dementholized core mint oil. Now, thin layer chromatography identification test for menthol. You are going to prepare a sample solution. So for that, you have to take 1 milligram of sample menthol and dissolve in 1 ml of methanol. Methanol is an organic solvent. you're going to apply a sample spot on the stationary phase. Over here, silica gel G is the stationary space, and you're going to use the mobile phase as pure chloroform.